start with the Ascot chase, and we will take a look at the betting that we currently have on Matchbook.com. You can currently back the Fakir is the current favorite at around 2.96 currently. Shishkin is available at 3.4, quite short. Pictory is 3.75, Middersbank 11.0, First Flow 23.0, and 67.0. The rag of the field, I write. Deasy, set up this race for us.
Yeah, so we have last year's winner, Fakir Doulari, turning up. I suppose his seasonal the seasonal plans have kind of changed now that Alho's over the Ryanair. He's probably going to go for that. Shishkin is on a recovery mission. Hasn't run well since beating an Argamine at Ascot last season. Pictory is the potential improver. He was always going to be a better chaser than he was a hurdler, and he's just improving as he gets older. Miller's banked in as well. First run after wind surgery. He's a possible. I know that you like him for the place, and I let you make that the case in a minute. Then you First Flow, and I write. This is his first time in a while he's come down in distance. I presume he'll be the front runner. And again, First Flow is back to the course where he had his greatest victory. And he was one I looked at a good bit, but I don't think the ground is going to be soft enough for him. So I might as well just drive on with my pick. I'm going for Fakir Doulari. I think this is obviously, he won it last year. He'll have been aimed at this. The way I looked at it is that he just has to run the form and should win this again. Shishkin has to improve massively, and Pictory has yet to prove that he is at this level. So I know it's boring going for a favourite, but I think Fakir should be able to win this.
Okay, before we move on to, everyone has a selection in this race, a different selection. I forgot to mention, if you are watching the podcast or listening to the podcast, do comment on YouTube, a chance to win a £25 free bet. Comment anything you like, feedback for the show, best bets, let us know. And a couple of loving Deasy already. Helen Sheridan says, I love Deasy in the YouTube comments, which is always a nice thing to hear, Deasy, I'm sure.
Thanks,
Steve,
yeah.
Steve, over to you. Yeah.
Well, it's Valentine's week, isn't it? You got.
My missus listens to this sometimes, so I can't say too much. But thanks,
Steve, over to you. This is a horse that myself and Deasy will be taking on this Saturday. But you do think Shishkin is worth another pick at the prices?
Yeah, I saw Shishkin put up in the lay column. I just think that you have absolutely no chance of backing Shishkin at this sort of price. He's what 3.5 or something. 12 months ago, and I said to Nico, but to Boyville before Cheltenham last year, I said this horse needs further. He's going to go, and I've always thought this horse needs further. And I didn't think that of Altior. I thought Altior was a 2 mile who just hit a bit of a flat spot and came home strongly. But Shishkin, it definitely needs further. He did say to me rather facetiously, I'm sure we'll see him in the Welsh National soon. But he's going up in distance, and I've always thought that was what he wanted. Obviously, things weren't right in the champion chase last year. He did beat Energumene prior to that over 2 miles at this course in the Clarence House. And again, it was his stamina that won it that day. He got away with it because he looked like Energumene had got away from him and he picked him up. But I think stepping up to 2.5, I'd say I'm surprised if it was me, I'd have gone for the King George this year, all things being equal. So I wasn't particularly worried about his Tingle Creek run because it just confirmed to me that he does want further, and that's what he gets. And the chance to back him at 3.5 or so, I'm not going to turn that down, even though obviously the wheels have fallen off to some respect, but I think that is a lot to do with the distance. So Shishkin for me.
Any danger he's gone at the game, Steve?
Well, there's always a danger, isn't there? But I think it's way too early to be writing him off when he clearly wasn't right in the champion chase from the moment they jumped off. It was obvious to everyone that there was something physically wrong with him. And then, like I say, in the Tingle Creek, again, it was just the distance.
Yeah, it'll be a fascinating market to see if there is late money and he maybe takes on Fakir Doulari for favoritism, Donn, and that is the horse that you like.
Yeah, like this is a fascinating race, really. Like Shishkin, you're just dying to see him again. And as Steve says, like he's only had one run this season. and he was sent off a short price favourite for the Tingle Creek. And Nicky Henderson obviously agrees with Steve because he hasn't even entered him in the champion chase. He's only in the Ryanair and the Gold Cup, which is kind of bizarre. And maybe since entries were closed or since first entries were made for the champion chase, the champion chase picture has changed a wee bit since then. Both Edwardstone and Energumen have been beaten. So maybe it wouldn't be any harm to put him in there. And if he does, so he won over 2.5 miles over hurdles, but we still don't know obviously how he's going to fare over 2.5 miles over fences. And if for some reason he doesn't get home over 2 miles 5, so they might have another look at the champion chase, which would be interesting. Fakir Dideri's stalwart, won this race last year. Just didn't think he was that impressive in beating 2 for Goal last year. He travelled into his race well, but he came under a ride at the second last, and he wasn't as impressive ultimately as it looked like he was going to be. And 2 for Goal is rated vastly inferior to him. So, and he doesn't stay 3 miles. So 2 miles 5, I suppose the ground is going to be better than it was last year, so that'll help him. It's not that he doesn't stay. Obviously, he does stay this intermediate trip, but he wouldn't want too much further. And yeah, he probably wouldn't have won the horse and jockey chase last time at Thurles, the Kinloch Bray. If Autumn Couleur had stood up at the final fence, it looked like he'd come and won his race. And then French Dynamite made a mistake at the final fence as well. So I thought he was a bit fortunate to win the Kinloch Bray this year. And I just think he's a favourite that's maybe opposable because of all of that. And Pictori, he's the coming horse. He was really good at Kempton last time. He goes well at Ascot. He jumps around Ascot well, which is a key here, I think. And while he's had plenty of racing, he's still only 8. He was a classy hurdler. He won a Betfair hurdle, and he's better over fences than over hurdles. And yeah, and multiply that by, I know they all have course form, but I just think Pictori jumps around Ascot better than he jumps around most places. And he's the third in of the 3 in the market as well. So yeah, I think he's the value.
Okay, yeah. For me, anyway, I just think Miller's Bank, his form actually ties in well with Pictori. And just on a price point, you're comparing the prices. Pictori's 3.75, Miller's Bank's around 11.0. I watched that race back 2 starts ago, and it was this time there'll be an extra furlong, but Miller's Bank was held way off the pace. He actually made a mistake on the second fence. I actually had to get a bit of work to get back into it. And he was definitely closing in on the line. So obviously the King George was fairly disappointing. He did have a lot of shrewdies putting him up for the King George, but he has had a wind up since. I know his jumping wasn't great, but I'm hoping I can just put a line through that. And if you can, based on that performance against Victoria, I know Victoria has won subsequently, but I think you're getting serious value on a win and place market 11.0. So for a small interest play, that would be my selection. Anything else to say on the Ascot chase before we move on, guys?
I think they'd be running at a good pace, so we should get a good race. Pictori obviously makes the running, and so I think I Ride to be up there because he needs to be, and First Flow won't be far away. So we should get a good pace, and that should suit the classiest horse in the race.